Hello everyone, my name is Noah and welcome to this Set Studio video. Today we're going to be doing another deck flip through. I do these quite often. I really enjoy sharing my thoughts about new to me tarot decks with all of y'all. This time we are going to be looking at the August deck, which is a collaged tarot deck by Jody Bosnan and Kinsey Klein. And this is the little guidebook that goes with it. We have the deck here in a tuck box. It is an uncoated paper. And yeah, it's nice, it's simple, it won't get in the way. So I bought this deck back in October, actually, mid-October, at the Pittsburgh Zine Fair from one of the vendors there. It was really something different from what I would normally purchase. I usually prefer illustrated decks rather than photo decks or collage decks, but I was able to see some of the cards at the event, and it just looked really interesting, and it looked like something that, despite being so different from what I normally do, might be something that I would really be interested in. So I'm going to open it up real quick, and I am going to admit to all of y'all that I actually started this video once already. I was kind of struggling with it. I felt a little out of it. I didn't really feel like I was doing my best job. I mean, I was doing as best as I could, but I felt like I could do better, and I made it to, I think, the moon in this tarot deck, and then my tummy started hurting and I just stopped the video, and now that I'm feeling better, I'm just going to start over. So I have seen a few of these cards once again today, but we are just going to go through this, and I'm going to do my best to give you my honest opinion and not leave anything out that I've already said. So if you find that I'm repeating myself a bit as I talk about the cards, it's because I want to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. Before we get started, I am going to talk about the cards themselves, like the card stock. It is a very glossy, very smooth card. It doesn't feel sticky like some glossy cards do. I would say they're probably about a medium weight cardstock, which is great. I prefer, personally, heavier cardstocks, but I do find sometimes that makes the deck too thick to shuffle. That was the issue I had with the Modern Witch Tarot, which I also have a video for on this channel. It really just kind of sometimes is too much of a good thing. So this medium weight, I feel like, is a really good weight. It is obviously in the middle as a medium weight, and I feel like it can appeal to maybe more people. Rather than a really heavy or a really thin cardstock, it kind of has that middle leeway. This guidebook has a little bird on the cover, someone holding the bird on their hand, or the bird is resting on their hand. Don't focus on my hand, focus on the picture of a hand. I don't know. If we open it up, it has a little bit about the creators in here. It says that the August deck was created from 2020 to 2023, collaging each card separately, sometimes snail mailing pieces back and forth. Thank you for sharing our love of art and tarot. We believe it is a tool for reflection, a sometimes uncomfortable mirror of sorts, and less for telling fortunes. We encourage you to write your own story. So that is the idea at the heart of this deck. And if you look at each card, it has a little bit of poetry here, as well as some keywords with the title of the card. And as you get into the minor arcana, it has the same, and that's really it. There's no extra spreads, there's no how to do tarot type thing in the back, but that's fine. I feel that it's more of a do-it-yourself, kind of do the research if you're interested type thing. Very, not bare bones, but without a lot of extra stuff to it. So here we have the Fool. I really like the sort of viewpoint of her where she is actually kind of, it looks like she's looking off of a cliff rather than you see her walking off of it. She's looking back at you, and we can see that there's, you know, an abyss or a cliff or a canyon, a chasm in front of her, but she doesn't see it, and she has her bag. I feel like it's a really interesting interpretation that's different, yet the original meaning still comes through. Oh, and by the way, here is a dedicated shot of the back. You may have seen already as I was playing with the cards, but here it is. So then we have the Magician, and I do really like this. I like the yellow being brought in from the original Rider-Waite-Smith, and the flowers, and just the different ways of things being interpreted. We have the High Priestess. I do really like the shape of her neckline. This was something I mentioned the first time I filmed this video. It reminds me of the two columns that you will see on the High Priestess card, as well as the shapes kind of remind me of the shape of, I think it's her like headdress or crown that she wears in the original design. I will insert a picture of it here somewhere if I can find it, and maybe I will have been talking about something that I'm remembering that doesn't actually exist, but either way, you'll know at least what I'm thinking of or trying to think of. We have the Empress, and I really do like this one with all the different fruits. We've got the pomegranate, grapes, a peach perhaps, a lime, a pineapple. I do really like the difference between the black and white person, the character in black and white, and then everything else around it. I also like the fact that this background is out of focus. I feel like a lot of times, perhaps with collage, it feels like everything should be in focus because you're cutting out pictures and putting them together. It's not from one original field of view. It's, you know, a bunch of different pictures. So having the out of focus background is a nice touch. And then we have the Emperor. And one thing I really like about this card is you can see the person taking the picture in his glasses, and I feel like that could be really interesting into how you interpret the Emperor. I feel like that could be a really interesting variance compared to interpreting the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith card. And we have the Hierophant, and honestly, I think this is probably one of my favorite cards out of the whole deck, between what I managed to flip through the first time before I started over, and what I remember from the zine fair going through the cards at the table. There's something about it that's so arresting. It reminds me a lot of a folk saint from folk Catholicism. Then you have the groups of people in the background, and the city, and the keys. I don't know, there's just something about it that I just want to sit here and stare at this card. And then we have the Lovers, which is a much less cluttered card, but it is a really cute card with some sapphic celebration, I suppose. And I do like the combination of the illustrative effect of the sun and the moon with the actual photos. And then we have the Chariot. I don't really have too much to say about this card other than I like it. I like the different color tones between the person, who's very red-toned, and the blue background. I think that's really interesting how we kind of have the three primary colors here, which invoke Chariot energy. So I guess I did have a little bit to say about it. We have Strength, and I do really like the saber-toothed tiger, which, if you think about, must be stuffed or maybe an artist rendition, because the saber-toothed tiger was not alive when cameras were a thing. So I feel like that could be something interesting to play with. And then you have the standing stones in the background that kind of remind me of Stonehenge. And even the text in the background that's flipped upside down here, I think that could be interesting. What do you think it says? How do you think that might change your interpretation of the card? And then we have the Hermit. I like this one a lot as well. The Hermit is one of my favorite cards in general, and I really do like the way the lamp was incorporated in this card. It's with the person, it kind of, you get the vibe that they're carrying it, but they aren't technically, so that's fun and interesting. And then we have the Wheel of Fortune, which the first time I flipped through these cards today, I was like, oh, I really like this, and I still really do. I think having a clock or a watch like this as the Wheel of Fortune is a really interesting choice. One thing I didn't notice before is there is a person up here. I noticed that we had like something that represents the four suits, or, you know, that's what goes here in the traditional card. I think that's interesting. I wonder what a person with a book, what that, you might feel like that means. I feel like this deck overall is really something that's open to a lot of really interesting interpretation. And then we have Justice. And I like the way this person is kind of tired. They've got their hand on their head. They're kind of, you know, sitting maybe a little bit hunched over. They just look tired, because having a strong sense of justice, being the arbiter of justice, not that I know anything about being the arbiter of justice, but it can be tiring, I imagine. And I know that, you know, wanting the world to be a better place, wanting there to be justice for people can be exhausting as well. So I like the kind of look of her being tired, of feeling like wanting the world to be a better place is so exhausting, but I'm going to keep going. She hasn't let go of her sword. She's going to keep moving forward. And then we have the Hanged Man, which is actually one of my favorite cards again. There are a lot of major arcana cards I really like, and this is one of them. And I'm always really curious to see how it's interpreted. This is very interesting. I think having the saint, like, flare, I don't know what that's called. I know it has a specific name, but we're just going to call it the flare, around the person's head is interesting. The Hanged Man card comes from the myth of Odin hanging himself from Yggdrasil. He sacrificed himself, which does feel kind of biblical or saint-like or martyrly, so that's an interesting connection there, I suppose. Then we have Death, another instance where illustrations were brought into actual photographs. and I feel like it was done to good effect. Death is, I would say, my favorite card overall, but I'm not sure how I feel about this one. I think this is one that I'll definitely have to maybe look at in the guidebook and play around with and spend some time just meditating on before I can really give you my thoughts on this card in specific. We have Temperance, and this really is a very beautiful card. I like how the cup that she's pouring into is floating. I feel like that is interesting because it makes it feel more precarious. If you're holding something with your hand very sturdily, it's not going to fall, or at least it doesn't look like it's going to fall. But something floating like that feels more precarious, and so the balance aspect of Temperance is more important. And then we have the Devil. It reminds me of Twin Peaks. I am not sure why, but it does. Maybe something about the 50s-esque, 60s-esque vintage style of the woman dressed as the devil. Something about the ice cubes on the pitchfork. I don't know, but I'm definitely getting Twin Peaks vibes from it, which is interesting. And then we have the Tower. It's interesting that it's this shiny, fancy, high-rise building with lava fields around it, which kind of makes me think of perhaps the elite of a society, whereas the society around them is crumbling. People are desperate, they're starving, they're being maltreated, but you have the people in this tower that are living their lives, don't really care, they feel like everything's fine, but then the tower crumbles and it becomes evident that everything was not fine. And then we have the Star, and this was something that I noticed the first time I was looking at this card. She's walking away from the city, which might seem odd at first, but I kind of like the idea that she's leaving the structure and the dogma and, you know, the cramped maze-like conditions of a castle like this to forge her own path. She's, you know, kind of walking away, creating her own life, her own path, so that is something that can be very hopeful for people, so that fits in with the Star vibes. And then we have the Moon. I do like this fox. He's a cutie. I do also like how the ground is purple. That makes things feel more dreamlike, which is a good sort of vibe for the Moon card to have. It doesn't necessarily need to have that vibe, but since dreams, it's kind of like hard to tell what's real, what's not. That really links back to the meaning of the Moon, so I feel like that really plays into that well. And then we have the Sun. I don't know really what to say about it. It's the Sun. There's horsies. I like horsies. I don't know. Some cards I have a lot to say about. Some of them not really. This one is very interesting. I do think that this card is maybe not quite as intriguing to me as some of the other cards have been, but then again, the Judgment card for me, I very rarely find to be super interesting. Although, what is she holding? The woman is holding something, but I can't tell what it is. And then we have the World, and I do very much like this World card. It really invokes what the world as a card means to me, and that's always fun. We have the Ace of Wands. I like the way the dandelion is cut out. It isn't super detailed, but it does kind of lend to that texture that you see in the clock or the puffball of the dandelion, so that's fun. But then you have the big open space behind it, so you're holding the dandelion stem, you're about to blow all the seeds off, and they have all this space they can spread into, and that really does feel like an Ace of Wands vibe. And then we have the Two of Wands. This is very interesting. Where is the map of this? San Francisco, it looks like. There's Las Vegas. So the western part of the United States. That's interesting. I don't know much about the western part of the United States. I've never been out there. Sometimes I just talk without knowing where I'm going, and something interesting comes out, but not always. We have the Three of Wands. And in this one, I kind of like the fact that this person is almost sort of a wand. You could argue that there's two separate sticks, so it's two separate wands, but I do like the thought that this person is the third wand. I think that's interesting. And then we have the Four of Wands, and I'm getting a real midsummer vibe from this, and also the twins from The Shining, so those two things combined make for an interesting mix. We have the Five of Wands. I do really like that with the boat in the background and the silverware. That's interesting. We have the Six of Wands. I do like this one quite a bit. The wreath and the sticks. I feel like I know what they are, but at the same time I don't. Maybe they're whip handles? I'm not sure. And then we have the Seven of Wands, which is pens, which I absolutely love, because you may or may not know, I actually do use fountain pens quite a bit. I actually have one right here. This is the pen that I use in my bullet journal. So I am a fan of a good card with pens in it, and I do really like this. And we have the Eight of Wands. I absolutely love that. It looks almost like a ship from Star Wars or something coming flying at these people. But it definitely has that sense of motion that the Eight of Wands has. We have the Nine of Wands. Oh, I love that with the jack-o'-lanterns. It's so... I want to say it's strange, but maybe it's not. I don't know. I really like it, though. And these hands wrapped around the tree that aren't a part of the main character are really interesting. We have the Ten of Wands. And I'm a huge fan of quilts. That's another one of my hobbies is quilting. So seeing a quilt in something like this is going to at least lean me towards it a little more. But I do like the person's carrying all the stuff. They have this huge hill they have to go up. That is very Ten of Wands. And now we have the Page of Wands. And there is some text up here. It's mirrored and it's very, very faint. So I'm not sure what it says. When drivers... something, yeah. The first two words are when drivers, but that's all the further I can get. And we have the Knight of Wands. This one's fun. I like this one a lot. Again, with the black and white versus the color. A little black cat. It's the Queen of Wands. I'm a huge fan of black cats, having a black cat myself. So, yeah, that's cute. I really like that, and I'm definitely getting Queen of Wands vibes from her. Ooh, the King of Wands. I love that expression on the model's face. That's sort of just, not despondent, but it's that expression that models make. I don't know what to call it, because it's not quite neutral, but it's not quite sad. It's not, you know, it's something, but I don't know what the word is for it. Maybe melancholy? And we have the Ace of Cups, and I absolutely love this. I love the color of the juice or the wine going into the cup, the splashback, the background, all of that. It's very arresting. It really catches your eye. We have the Two of Cups. It's interesting, the two snakes going for the bird, and we have like this almost stained glass mosaic type thing going on here with the two people and the two cups. We have the Three of Cups. I like how they're all sort of balancing together on the plane. I feel like that maybe brings in a little bit of the cohesiveness. Again, like I said, talking, and sometimes good things come out, sometimes nonsense comes out. We have the Four of Cups, like the hand up here. It's very ace, but it's also very Four of Cups. Have the Five of Cups. I love how the cups are just sort of floating around them, as if the cups really aren't physical cups, they are everything the cup stands for. They're not literal cups. And then we have the Six of Cups. The Seven of Cups, choices, choices. I do really like that. I like how there's something in the cups in each one, and they're all so different. And this person, there's nothing around them, so really all that is on their mind are their choices. There's really nothing else they can do but make the choice. We have the Eight of Cups. This feels like a chalkboard to me, like she's writing on a chalkboard. We have the Nine of Cups. That is some outfit. Very space age fantasy. We have the Ten of Cups. I really do like this one. It's kind of like this is them as children, this is them now, perhaps, or these are their children. I like that they're coffee cups, too. I'm just a fan of coffee. We have the Page of Cups. I like that she's holding a fish, because I feel like pages sometimes do nonsensical things, or at least that energy makes me think of that. And it might not make sense to us, but it makes perfect sense to the page. We have the Knight of Cups. I thought the horse was holding that cup for a minute. I thought that was its hoof. We have the Queen of Cups. Very glamorous queen. The King of Cups. Oh, I like this one even more than the Queen of Cups. Reminds me of Vegas a bit, but like old-fashioned Vegas. Now we have the Ace of Swords. We have the Two of Swords. I do really like this. And, hold on, I need to get closer. Okay, so that's like looking down on a city. There's a city down there, and This person is almost like laying in the sky. It's really interesting. I'm imagining, it makes me think of them falling towards the earth and they have to make a decision between the red or the white before they land. And I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's anything that the creators were thinking of or if that's just what's coming through to me in this moment. We have the Three of Swords, the Four of Swords. I like how it's both butter knives and like steak knives, although I guess they're not technically steak knives. They look more like chef knives. But you know what I mean. Sharp knives and not sharp knives. We have the Five of Swords. I think this is interesting because it could be these two people arguing and the person that they're hurting by their arguing, or people leaving because of arguments, or they're going to try and confront her together. The fact that we have these people far apart gives an air of conflict, but it's a very, like, not vague, but a very open to interpretation type of conflict. So we have the Six of Swords, and this boat kind of reminds me of a slice of cheese, honestly. I don't know why. Well, I mean, the shape and the color probably, but I don't know. It makes me think of a piece of cheese. And the knives, so charcuterie board. The charcuterie board of fate. We have the Seven of Swords, or pointy implements. They don't all look like they're actually swords in this case, but they all look rather pointy and sharp. We have the Eight of Swords, and it's interesting. You can see these bindings or poles or whatever they are that are supposed to represent her feeling trapped are really on herself only, which kind of emphasizes your being trapped, your hindrances, your limitations are all within your mind sort of message that this card often sends. And then you also have all of these knives, of course, which are really sharp, and then all of the cacti on this side, which is again really sharp. But then if you look at this side, it's more of a grassy field or a savanna, which is less sharp. So it could be she can't go that way, but she could go that way. So it again leans into the sort of you're only trapped because you believe you are mentality or idea of this card. And then we have the Nine of Swords, and I really, really like the way they chose knives that had colored handles. I feel like that, I don't know, that just really brings in color all the way up through the card when everything else from here up is black and white. I also like that you can't really see the person's face. That makes it feel like it could be you, it could be anybody, even if you don't physically look like this person. We have the Ten of Swords, and that's a really interesting way to incorporate the blood of the Ten of Swords without it really being graphic. And I do also like this illustrative sun up here. Well, like I mentioned before, I like the combination of the photos and the illustrations. We have the Page of Swords. Love that scarf. That's really cool. We have the Knight of Swords. We have the Queen of Swords. I like the Ice Castle. That kind of plays into the understanding or the, I suppose, stereotype of the Queen of Swords kind of being very ruthless and cold and calculating, which she doesn't always need to be, and we have the butterflies to balance out the ice, but I feel like that is a fun, interesting way to sort of bring that popular gnosis, I suppose, into the card design. We have the King of Swords. I love how confident she looks. That is really some king energy there. And we have the Suit of Pentacles, finally. So we have the Ace of Pentacles. I like that. You really get like the rising sun almost over this town, the beginning of a new day. And we have the Two of Pentacles. In this background, at least, actually, it might be from the water up is painted, it looks like, so that is an illustration. Everything else is a photo. And again, I'm a fan of that combination. We have the Three of Pentacles. Again, I love the confidence of the model that they chose for this card. We have the Four of Pentacles. I do like that. I was talking with some friends about time as a resource, so having the Four of Pentacles show up as clocks is really interesting because it kind of brings in that time as a resource theme. We have Five of Pentacles, and I'm not sure what's going on here, but it almost looks like they're doing target practice at the coins, which I don't think is what's going on, but it makes me think of wasting your resources and then not having them later on because you destroyed them, but I really can't tell. I guess they're walking away from them towards us, but the way this person's crouched, that's what it looks like to me. So not really probably what they meant, but that's what I got out of it, which is something I love about tarot, because we all have our own interpretations of the cards, and even if we're all looking at the same card, we can see different things. And then we have the Six of Pentacles. I like that she's on a runway kind of showing off, because runway fashion shows, at least high fashion, are all about wealth. So she's saying this is a way to display your wealth, and she is literally displaying coins rather than just the clothing. Is she going to give these people around her any of the wealth, or is she going to keep it for herself? We have the Seven of Pentacles. I love that. I kind of wish I was on the beach right now. That would be lovely. We have the Eight of Pentacles. This one, I love the way they get the message across, because the Eight of Pentacles is very much, you've been doing a lot of work, but you've got to keep going. So in order to be this flexible, you clearly have to put in a lot of work. So it shows that this person is dedicated, but they're going to keep going. They're going to keep improving. They're going to keep honing their talents. So it's a fun way to show that in this card. And then we have the Nine of Pentacles. I love these flowers. I love when flowers are in the Pentacle cards. I don't know, I really like that imagery. And I love the way she's eating grapes. And it's all just kind of, she has what she wants. She's indulging. You know, this is a dream come true, sort of make a wish. You know, this is what you should be wishing for, or this is what you could be wishing for. So that's fun. We have the Ten of Pentacles, which has got even more fruit in it, so it's sort of even more than this card, which is a very, in my mind, appropriate way to show the Ten of Pentacles. You're not just wishing for abundance, you have the abundance. And then we have the Page of Pentacles, and I absolutely love this rainbow pentacle disc that they've got going on there, along with their bright yellow sweater. We have the Knight of Pentacles, very interesting. The Queen of Pentacles. I feel like she's getting a message from outer space. And then finally, the King of Pentacles. And I really do like this white background. I feel like that's not something we've seen a lot, but it really does make the King stand out. And then, of course, we have the cows, the fruit, the coin, are all sort of symbols of wealth from different times and different places. And the King of Pentacles isn't necessarily only strictly about material wealth, but it does bring that sort of message forward. So that's it for the August deck. It was fun to flip through, and like I said, it's very different from what I normally would gravitate towards, but I think it'll be fun to use. I look forward to getting to using it with some of my friends. I don't know, I feel like it's a tarot deck that would really work well when I do readings for other people. I don't know, it feels like it will, so we'll have to see. I am going to, as I always do, shuffle and pull a card. It feels like a fun way to break a deck in on a video like this. And yeah, so we're going to go with this card. He's kind of speaking out, jumping out to me. The Five of Cups. So, of course, make of that what you will. Maybe this is a message for you. Maybe it's not. Maybe I just pulled a card. Who knows? But yes, I believe that's everything. Be sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it, dislike this video if you disliked it, but if you disliked it, why are you still here? And of course, be sure to leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this deck. Do you like collage decks in general? Are you a fan of them? Do you have any? Are there any decks that you have that are really different from most of the other decks you have, that sort of buck the tradition of what you look for in a deck? Just tell me about your tarot thoughts down below. I love to hear from all of y'all. It makes making videos and sharing them even more fun. And I believe the last thing I need to ask you to do is turn on notifications, which is that little bell thingy that you see, so that you know when I release my next video. I do lots of bullet journaling videos, art journaling, some writing, and lots of tarot here on my channel. I believe that's everything, so I just want to say one more time, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you for spending part of the day in the Stet Studio with me. Goodbye!